Dear audience, topic of our today's audio talk is: should a successful businessman be a perfectionist or commercially pragmatic? As you all knows that in the last 2 years, the game has changed for all of us, especially addressing to the corporate leaders, entrepreneurs, commercial heads, business consultants, front desk managers. In our world pre-coronavirus, we seem to be in a relatively stable world where many factors were known and predictable, and achieving success looked like the pursuit of perfection. But in a crisis, when reality is changing by the day, or even by the hour, when there is no way of knowing with certainty what lies ahead or the best course of action to take, there is no time for perfection. Suddenly, perfectionism has become a liability. Dr. Michael Ryan, Executive Director of the WHO, has been at the front lines, mentioned that, if you need to be right before you move, you will lose. Speed and survival trumps perfection. Perfection is the enemy of good when it comes to emergency management. In the midst of great uncertainty, leaders across all industries are continuously adjusting their strategies, implementing effective supply chains, rewriting the rules of operation, dealing with people management, and sometimes making things up as they go. Honestly speaking, this kind of leadership demands extreme mental agility. However, there is a challenge: our minds are not naturally built for agility. Evolution has wired our minds for distraction, as in eons past, constant attention to a dangerous landscape helped us survive. They are also wired for empathy, as this helped us gather in groups and create communities. And they are wired for ego, the most basic mechanism of self-preservation. To adopt an agile mindset, these 3 hardwired settings must be managed well. We will now look a bit more deeply at each challenge and offer thoughts on developing this mindset and managing these crises affectionately with better results. First thing is how to deal with the challenge of distractions. Let's be deeper in it. As you lead through these uncertain times, you need to quickly zoom out to comprehend the shifting big picture and then zoom in on the execution of short-term actions. This can seem impossible when you are also inundated with information. More emails, more meetings, and more news. As we know that the information overload increases the risk of distractibility, making it hard for us to remain aware and difficult to focus on the priorities, specifically when we are under time pressures. Distractibility. When your mind jumps from one thing to the other. This is not agility. It is following whatever calls for attention. Without strategic focus or diligent prioritization, as a successful manager or leader, to combat distractibility, we need the mental agility to shift between focus and awareness. Focus is our ability to stay with single-pointed attention on the task at hand and effectively execute our priorities. Whereas, awareness is our ability to look at the bigger picture, on the future, and the changes we have to face ahead. The awareness is connected to many factors, and it allows us to detect and assess environmental changes, to hold the meta view of our organization, and to ultimately separate the signals from the noise. After assessing the big picture, focus is required to respond decisively, to deploy the necessary capabilities, and to execute with discipline. To test your agility between focus and awareness, try this. As you read this sentence, abruptly shift your focus away from these words and become aware of your overall priorities for today. So, how did it go? Did the switch happen instantaneously, or was there any mental lag? Did any part of your mind still linger on the words you just read? If you're not sure about your experience or you did not understand it better, try it again and practice it. Shift your focus from something detailed to an awareness of a bigger picture. Apply this to your priority tasks, KPIs or projects. To decrease the distractibility and to increase your mental agility, just think of your leadership work right now in terms of small sprints. Together they may make up a marathon, but each is its own race. Between every sprint, allow yourself a few moments of pause. Let your mind settle down for even just a minute. Take many small pauses throughout the day when you are not trying to achieve anything. These pauses will help you to deepen both your focus and awareness, and also help you assess whether you are focusing on the right things. Prioritize. Be sorted first. In a nutshell, just remember that mental agility is closely related to the practice of mindfulness, which builds the mental muscles to be both focused and aware. There are many free apps available to help you practice and improve your mindfulness. Second important thing is dealing with our own ego. Right now, the world is changing fast and leaders are moving swiftly to stabilize and reposition their businesses. Unfortunately, egos can get in the way of these agile pivots. Our egos tend to be attached to our past successes and how the things used to be. When everything gets upended, and our past successes and usual approaches are suddenly not relevant anymore, our ego hurts. We begin to hold on even tighter to the world we used to know and understand. Ego kills our ability to be agile. The remedy to let the ego go is selflessness. Taking our ego out of the picture for a while and basically leaving it at the front door before we show up at work every day. Selflessness means asking ourselves how we can serve the mission of the company and not worrying about fame, fortune, and influence. For the leaders, it means especially being honest about not knowing the answers, asking openly for advice, perspectives and support, and recognizing that it takes more than two eyes to look into an unknown, unpredictable future. There are many amazing examples of selflessness in action as companies respond to the coronavirus crisis. For example, biotech company leaders are breaking down corporate walls to share, collaborate and support each other in the race to develop more effective COVID-19 vaccine. Another important point for the managers and leaders is, selflessness must be balanced with self-confidence. Your teams must feel your sense of confidence in the strategy they are executing. When you are able to marry conviction with freedom from ego, you instill a deep sense of trust and psychological safety in your organization. When that happens, every part of your organization feels empowered to take calculated risks, adapt, innovate and move with the speed of the crisis. The third thing is applying empathy with compassion. Empathy is the ability to recognize and resonate with others' emotions, and is crucial for good leadership. But remember that in the times of crisis, empathy can become a barrier to taking the right actions. Empathy can slow down your agility. Kasper Rorsted, the CEO of Adidas, recently offered a piece of advice to leaders in these times of crisis. You have to start thinking like surgeons. A surgeon doesn't go in thinking, this is going to hurt, and the recovery over the next 2 months is going to hurt. A surgeon goes in saying, to save the patient's life or make the patient far better off than she or he is today, this is the operation we have to carry out. And that's exactly what you have to think about as leaders. Leaders are often forced to make tough decisions about layoffs, salary reductions, site closures, etc., which impact people's lives negatively. As empathetic people, we do not like hurting others. And because of this we are at risk of not doing what needs to be done. The remedy for empathetic paralysis is compassion. Empathy and compassion are very different from a psychological, emotional, and neurological point of view. Empathy arises when we see someone else suffering, but it tends to stay within us. Compassion, on the other hand, is more constructive. It starts with empathy and then turns outward, with an intent to help. To observe the compassion in action, consider the actions and recent statements of Alan Jope, CEO of Unilever. He expresses deep empathy for those suffering from the coronavirus and for those offering care in hospitals or in different institutions. And he translates these emotions into a very clear and bold action plan, including a global contribution of goods valued over 100 million euros, with another 500 million euros in cash flow relief to small-scale retail customers and vulnerable suppliers. To bring more compassion into your leadership and unlock greater agility, make a habit of asking yourself a simple question whenever you are with another person. How can I be of benefit to this person? This simple question repeated many times through the day will gradually rewire your way of thinking and acting. For leaders operating in times of crisis, or in any other difficult time, overcoming these three challenges with focus and awareness, selflessness, and compassion will help you to be mindful, but still act with agility. Please give your feedback in comments and subscribe to our channel, Audiobooks Junkie. Thanks a lot for listening to our management talk.